very much. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City of Lake Worth Beach Utility City Commission meeting of Tuesday, July 29th, 2025. May I have the roll call, please?
Mayor Betty Rush.
Here.
Vice Mayor Sarah Maliga.
Present.
Commissioner Christopher McVoy.
Here.
Commissioner Mimi May.
Here.
And Commissioner Anthony Segrich is currently absent.
Okay. Commissioner McVoy will lead the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will practice. I'm English major. Before we start, I just want to put out, there was some confusion about a meeting about stormwater management services. I'm looking around the room. I don't see anyone that seems to be here mistakenly. But if there was a bit of a miss up and something was going to be today, but it's September 11th at 5 o'clock, 5:01 here in City Commission Chambers. It is to impose and provide for collection of stormwater management service, non-ad valorem assessments public hearing on Thursday, September 11th, 2025. And am I mistaken, or is this county people that run this? Is this us that runs this, or is it the county?
This is us.
Okay.
This was part of our stormwater assessment.
Okay.
That gets passed each year through the first and second reading of the budget
Okay.
in September. So
Yeah. Somebody
must
got,
have been some kind of mix of letters. Something,
well,
so.
somebody got somebody mixed up, and we apologize for any inconvenience, that's why all those people were here. I'm like, why are you here?
Yeah, and they'll send out an updated letter, I guess.
Then we got this weird, they showed this weird letter. I'm like, "Oh." So agenda, additions.
Before we start, Commissioner Segrich has arrived.
Okay, and he is here. Thank you. So any additions, deletions, or reordering?
I have none, Madam Mayor.
Okay, having none, let's approve the agenda. And presentations. Water utility update by our own Brian King, Water Utilities Interim Assistant Director. It is a long title. He's a tall guy. He can handle it. And very spiffy tonight.
Good evening. Good evening.
You're looking good.
Thank you. Brian King, interim assistant director for water. Just real quick before I get into the update for water, I want to go back to yesterday and just make a comment on, there was a short discussion on the avoided cost. We had created a new GL, it was the $5,000. That was to, if any solar customers, rooftop solars supplied more than they taken for the entire year, we do reimburse them at the avoided cost. And then it was mentioned that, well, we're not paying for that energy in our supplemental, but we do have to cover capacity for those megawatts. So if we have, say, 3 megawatts of solar, rooftop solar in the city, we still have to carry that capacity in the case that solar doesn't run. So I just want to make sure that was understood, that we do have costs associated with it. Yeah.
Does that cost us money then?
Capacity.
Yes, capacity money.
So the solar people are costing us money.
Well, we still have to pay for the capacity in case the solar does not run. Yes. So I don't want anybody to think that, hey, if you have rooftop solar in the city, still not. No, we still have to take a cost for that capacity.
I think there's a generally misnomer, and we go back to reminding people that electricity is not just electricity. It's capacity to make electricity. And then there's electricity. We have to buy the capacity, and then we pay for electricity consumption as well. The net metered customers don't substantially contribute to our capacity requirements on peak, because peak typically happens between 4 to 6 or 4 to 7 p.m. So their contribution towards the peak is declining, and it's also not guaranteed. So we wind up buying capacity to cover that period of time. We don't know if it's going to be cloudy that day, rainy. We can't count on it. So we buy capacity to make sure that we don't fall short. They make energy during the course of the day, but they basically give us that energy and then they take it back later in the day. So we act as a virtual battery, even though we're not storing it. We do debits and balances, debits and credits on a spreadsheet.
Or like a pass-through.
Like a pass-through.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up.
Okay, on to the water utilities update. So a lot of stuff happening in water, very active for water, both distribution and treatment. So we do have a bunch of projects going on in water. We do have our Slaker elevator project ongoing. we're going to have this elevator repaired and put back in service. It's been out of service. It hasn't been operational for a few years now. And so it's tough for the operators to have to walk the Slaker grits all the way through the admin building in a wheelbarrow and then take it all the way around the plant to dump it. And one of our priorities is get this elevator fixed so they can just ride the elevator up and down with the 50 pounds of Slaker grits. So that project is ongoing, and you'll see that come to you for approval in the water treatment plant. It's a lime Slaker, and then which they use for creating lime slurry, which then is injected into the water. And there's grit or residual, if you will, that has to be dumped or gotten rid of, waste, if you will. And so we had an elevator there, but that's been out of service for a few years.
A few years?
A few.
I've never heard of this.
Yes. So we're putting it back in service.
Well, we're glad we're fixing it.
So yes.
Yeah.
The demand letter was sent to AT&T and our USIC, which is our locate company, from the force main break of April of 2024. They have acknowledged receipt of the demand letters, and we are waiting for a response. We haven't heard anything back yet, but we'll bring it forward once we get it. I met with our grant administrators. Guardian is our grant administrator. They're the consultants who oversee our grant functions, submit monthly and quarterly reports. There was some sort of a disconnect between water and the grant company, the consultant over the last year or so, where they weren't submitting reports. We had started doing that internally. So we were submitting the monthly and quarterly reports. And so we just reinitiated this conversation with the Guardian and got them back up on speed, and they're assuming the role again of our grant administrators. We just don't have the staff or the expertise to be submitting these monthly or quarterly reports. These are people with subject matter expertise. So we did reopen that dialogue, and they have agreed to continue their path under their agreement and be our consultants and send those reports. So that's ongoing. We are continuing with our well field condition assessment. We have 4 wells, 3, 6, 7, and 14, and we want to determine if they can be refurbished or restored. Those wells are currently running at about 35 to 40%, 45% capacity, and we're hoping to get them up to around 85 to 90% of original capacity. So
How do you do that?
I have no idea. Yeah, I mean, no, they go and they take a look and see if there's some a sand or some silt. Is there some refurbishing that can happen to the well itself? Maybe you can pull the pump out and refurbish that pump. There's a whole a plethora of testing that they do on these wells. It's a specialized test, and they do this on a base. That's a great question. I don't know off the top of my head.
Like line them
But we can find out.
Thank you.
But again, you'll see that coming to you for approval probably at the next meeting to get those. We've gone through the engineering drawings, we've accepted the design, and so we'll put it out for RFP, and then you'll see that coming to you. The water treatment plant roof replacement project. So this project began with the commission's approval back in 2022. And that is for a grant from the DOE, which is the Department of Economic Opportunity, for about $989,000 to have the water treatment plant roof replaced and put to a Category 5 standard for that building. That would make that entire building Category 5. There were some unknown delays in kicking this project off. I don't know. I don't have all that history. I was in electric for a lot of that time. But we did re-kick it back off in 2025. We did receive one bid. We submitted that bid to the DOE, and they rejected that as non-compliance with only one bid. So we rebid it out. We did get 3 bids. We selected one through a selection committee, and submitted that bid to DOE. They had to approve that bid as well. So they went through that bid, all 700 pages of that bid, and they did approve that. So we are going to move forward with that project. You will see that coming in the August meeting for your approval. That is a $989,000 no match grant from the DOE. So yeah, so that's good for us. We'll get it. Yep, absolutely. We of course will have to front the costs and then get reimbursed from the DOE by submitting our quarterly reports, which we have Guardian doing now.
Okay.
The Parrot Cove project. Those are the improvements included on the installation of the outfall check valves and new drainage down by the golf course. That was 9th Avenue North, 8th Avenue North, 6th Avenue North, and 4th Avenue North, and all within that Lake Worth Beach Golf Club and the discharge into that intercoastal waterway. So we have brand new check valves in there to protect the lying residential areas and the golf course from flooding and prevent the impacts related to high tide and king tide events. And so there should be a drastic change in those areas.
Can I just ask a question about that?
Yes.
So when it's a king tide and the water starts to rise, then the pumps start going and just start spitting it back out into the intercoastal, and then it keeps coming in and it goes spitting back.
So we have new check valves there that will prevent water from coming back in and coming back in. So that was
But what
part of the,
goes over it, they can't go over it.
I'm not saying anything's impossible, but
Yeah, so it can
if
go
it gets high
over.
enough, I guess,
So it can't come in, but it could come over.
but it can go out, can't come in.
It can go out. Yeah.
Right, we can pump it out.
So we pump it out. We don't
Yes.
pump over.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. Go ahead. No, I think it's kind of cool. I want to know how it works.
Yeah, so check valves they're meant to alleviate some situation. They're not going to eliminate the situation. So the whole point is it's almost like a duct bill. It's another name for them.
Okay.
So it stops water from actually coming inland, but it allows the water to actually flow out though.
Oh,
if it's
and
coming
like
in-
in a boat, in the back of the boat.
Yeah.
With a little flapper thing.
It allows one
Got
flow
it.
one way, not
Yeah,
two
so-
ways.
so-
Discover.
one-
That's
Yeah, but again, high tide, full moon, something like that, it's not gonna come in, but if it rises high enough, yes, it's gonna go over. So, but it does.
so we rely on nature to let it go out first, and if nature's not enough, then we pump it through there. Or
Well,
no,
I don't think any of the.
No, we don't
No,
pump
no,
anything.
there's no pumping.
Not for the,
Gravity fed?
stormwater, no.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's correct.
that's all gravity.
Now,
Okay.
you know, the pump house or something like Town of Palm Beach has, we went toward that years ago. Major dollars, but, Brian?
This was gonna be a quick meeting.
All right, moving on. So anyway, for that Parrot Cove project, that was $900,000 came from ARPA funds, $450,000 came from no match grants, and $128,000 came from the 2020 bond. So it's a $1.4 million project that we just closed off.
Thank you.
We did recently have our certified lab audited by the state. So the water treatment plant runs its own state certified lab for analysis and certifications on water testing and water analysis. And so the state came in for its annual, every 2 years, we go through this certification. Our lab techs, they take great pride in their lab and the process and the procedures. They maintain stringent standards, without errors. And it was found no issues and no errors. And obviously they renewed their certification. So that did happen as well. The dual zone monitoring well, we did receive the 90% design. We're in the middle of performing locates to determine the best location for this well. We think we've had it narrowed down to the last spot. Our current schedule has us coming to the commission around November for approval of that well. And the time frame of that project is to begin sometime around February 25 and completion by May of 25.
6.
Yeah. And that, 26, I apologize, February 26th and completed by May of 26. And again, that project is ARPA funded about $1 million for that dual zone monitoring.
Did we get money
Didn't we
from
get money from
town?
the state? Yeah. We got money from the state for that.
The dual monitoring, it was approved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
$750.
Correct. And we have a legislative update coming soon from Jared.
Oh, good.
So we'll see,
Okay.
as far as the time.
I'll double check that, but I had it down as ARPA funds.
Maybe it was
It may-
planned out, but.
Maybe originally,
Yeah.
it could be.
But we may not need them for that.
Yeah, we
It
could
could
do
be
something
nice.
else.
Our water distribution
Sure,
system,
there's something on the CIP from water.
100%. The free chlorination residual, that happens every year. That's industry standard with every water utility. That will happen with Lake Worth Beach on August 24th, and that'll run through September 14th of 2025. And this is a temporary switch. It's a standard industry practice, a proactive measure to maintain the integrity of the water distribution system and ensuring compliance with water quality standards. On top of that, we'll also be doing strategic flushing of the system within our service territory. We'll be using hydrants. We have an engineered plan. We're not just opening hydrants. We have an engineered plan based on the direction of the flow of the water and the location of the hydrants. And we'll follow that probably for another 2 weeks after that to continue that flushing process.
I have two questions.
Yes.
And I see, the first one was, will people notice a difference during this process? Will it smell differently? Will it taste differently?
There's potential for that. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And the second question is, when you're doing that, we always, every time a hydrant gets flushed out, we get the phone calls. Why? Is it, if it would be helpful if we could have the PIO do a little thing about this is what's happening, this is why it's happening. And,
Yeah, we've been in touch with Rebecca and we have notices that are going to go out. So every
We got the
customer
notice for
will
the
get
chlorination
Yeah, I
already.
got
from us and she'll put it out for the flushing and for the
that's the
chlorination.
reason
So,
for it. We're not
100%.
wasting
No,
water.
there's a
Yeah,
reason
yeah.
for it. Yes. Yep.
It's really important.
It is.
Even like really intelligent people.
Oh.
Freak out about that.
I talked to people in your neighborhood and they didn't know what was going
My
on.
neighbors are
Our chlorine tanks, we're looking at these for replacement. We have 4 chlorine tanks that hold about 4,000 gallons each, and we're starting to notice some of the tanks leaking. They're double line tanks, so the leak stays within the tank itself. We're getting some material into our chlorine lines and clogging the pumps. It looks like the tanks are kind of delaminating from the inside, and that's causing that clogging. We had our maintenance team install some inline strainers, which is helping tremendously on our chlorine pumps, but we are looking to replace those tanks. We have received some quotes, and again, you'll see that coming forward shortly as soon as we determine the right method and the right tank to use, and we'll put that in there as well. And then lastly, we have the West Palm Beach tie. So unbeknownst to me, there is a tie line for water between Lake Worth Beach and West Palm Beach. I've done some research on this, and the last time it looks like that was utilized was prior to the RO installation at the
Oh.
water plant that it was used. West Palm Beach has reached out to Lake Worth Beach and asked if we were willing to make that line serviceable again. We didn't get too depth into the conversation. It's not a lot to get that line back up and running. It's probably a new check valve. It's reduced down to a 6-inch line. We'll probably put it to an 8-inch line. So there's just a spool that we would put in there and get that line to at least serviceable. Just some minor maintenance items. I mean, once we get the line functional, we can work with legal and get an interlocal agreement or something to see what, if anything, that line produces. But
Why
they did reach
do
out.
they want to do this?
They didn't mention it.
Do they want us to sell our water to them?
It was put under the context of, hey, if anybody ever needed an emergency supply of water, this is an avenue that's available, and maybe it should be refurbished so it's usable. That's not horrible.
Crazy.
Yeah,
No,
it's not.
just
Yeah.
given what's going on.
Where is this line?
I can get you I know exactly. I know where it is on the map.
The
Yeah.
north end of the city. I think.
Yeah. So it's there. It's available. We sent our team out to take pictures of it. So they took some pictures just to see what the condition of it was, and not a whole lot to get it back up to serviceable and in operation. So our thought is we'll probably do that, and then we'll look at agreements to see, okay, who flows where. I know West Palm does run at a higher pressure, so there'd have to be concern if we ever had to send them water, there'd have to be some sort of reduction in their pressure or an increase in our pressure to be able to send that water. So, but yeah, that came out of almost nowhere. So
So like if you took a shower in West, your water would have better pressure?
I wouldn't say better, but yes, higher pressure. I guess it depends on, they do run at higher pressure, but
Madam Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Segrich has his hand raised.
Thank you for bringing that to my attention, Mr. Segrich.
Hi there. Do you think it would be possible to leverage that tie line to perhaps reduce the water costs that we have at the beach? Maybe trade some water?
I mean, anything's possible.
But it's mutually beneficial theoretically to both of us, right?
Yeah. Again, we'd have to put an agreement together for that, and how much water, how much can we supply, and in
Nothing's
emergency
actually happening.
situations.
It's just opening it up in case there's an emergency.
At least that's the original thought. Yes.
Oh. Realize so. Okay.
And that is all I have from water for the update.
Well, you've been busy. Thank you
Yes.
very much.
Thank you.
Good, a lot of good stuff, a lot of positive. Thank you.
Geez, if the ratio of water to electric is like it normally is, we're gonna be here a while.
A long time. I took a nap on the plane.
Liberty School of Electricity.
There we go. The supplemental capacity energy RFP is on the street, as you all know. The bid period has closed. We will not be discussing the details of it, but we have received the bids and our consultants are starting to go through it. We were at the same conference last week. They did not brief me at the conference. They're not ready to brief me yet. So we'll wait to see what their analysis has to say. As a reminder for everybody, we do own our own capacity, but not all of the capacity that we need. And it does produce a good portion of our energy, not here at our own power plant. Less than 1% of our energy comes from our power plant. And maybe 20 to 25% of our capacity comes from our own plant, although we rarely run it. We do own capacity at the what's referred to as the FMPA Stanton project, which is a coal-fired unit that is owned and operated by OUC. We have ownership of a piece of that through FMPA. That is being retired at the end of this year, going away. We do own an entitlement share in the St. Lucie nuclear plant for 22 megawatts, and that is not going anywhere, at least through 2043 and hopefully much, much longer than that. So about 50% of our energy comes under the supplemental contract, which has been with OUC for 2 successive bids now, totaling almost 14 years. And we're in the process of shopping that as we're required to do from time to time. So that is underway, and we'll be back to you at a future meeting to get into more discussions. I know there was a discussion with regards to solar, and if you're at the conference, and we'll talk about that a little bit more, begin to sink in that solar does not give you all of the capacity that you need. And I would jokingly say to people, it doesn't work at night. And when we need it the most, it works the least. And so it's tapering off. It has some value, but we still have to buy firm capacity. And of course, it doesn't work if it's cloudy or dark or raining. It has very minimal value. So you have to have enough supplemental capacity to get energy from it. It's very hard to get energy at a reasonable price if you don't own capacity. So you still have to buy substantial amounts of capacity.
Which we do, right?
Which we do, and we will continue to do. Solar has been good for us. We're headed towards a portfolio on January 1. So effective January 1, we will be about 50% carbon free. And that's going to be comprised of largely nuclear, 32 to 33% of our energy supply that's separate from capacity. Just think about the energy that comes to us. And roughly 17% or so, I believe, will come from solar. So about 50% will be carbon free. That's for the folks that think more aligned with an environmental perspective. If you think more aligned with a cost perspective, about 50% of our portfolio will come from natural gas. The other 50% will come from sources that are locked in price and that are predictable and known and guaranteed under a contract. So there's something in it for everybody. The glass is half full, regardless of which side of the equation you're focused on. We have received some awards. The last couple of months have been big ones for us. And I say us and we, because it took a big we and a big us to get those. So we did receive an award from the American Public Power Agency for management and leadership. We'll be talking more about that at a later date, I think. And we also received reliability awards from FMPA. And I'll point out that it's been, I think, decades since the team at Lake Worth Beach was recognized at the state level. And I don't know when the team was last recognized at the national level. So it's quite an achievement. This doesn't happen because of one person or one commission or one commissioner or one legislator or not. It takes years and years and years of people pulling together and doing the right things to turn things around. And that's starting to happen. And you jokingly say, how did that happen? Well, a little at first, and then all of a sudden, everything happened in June and July. So that's been excellent.
Can I elaborate on those awards that we got last week?
Sure.
Well, it's just we got 2 awards. One was for duration improvement awards equal to or greater than 10%. So it's power reliability. And as a large city, we received an award for that. And then for the lowest duration and largest reduction in percentage winners in our outages, we received Momentum Award. We received an award for that as well. Only 4 out of the whole state got that, and 3 out of the whole state, 4 out of the whole state got 3 out of the whole state got the other one. So it was a wonder. We were so proud of you. You are now, I'm interjecting here, but you're now the president of the Florida Municipal Electric Association.
Yes, I am.
Everyone that we spoke to from any of those agencies while we were up there how lucky are you have to to have Mr. Liberty? What a change he's made in, we've been with this for years and years, and now to see Lake Worth Beach coming forward with the way you're coming forward is so wonderful to see. And it's your team and your leadership, and we thank you.
Well, the team did that.
Well-
So I'll have to add that
Don't be too modest.
I'll have to add that it's been a long time since we had a large contingent of commissioners that were so welcomed to be in that meeting. And I got a lot of comments from, and this is probably 300 to 500 plus people in these large rooms during the lunches, the dinners, and the presentations, and a resounding, favorable feedback from my peers, but from the public, from contractors, staff at FMPA and FMEA, about how supportive and how good it was to see a large contingent of vice mayor, mayor, and commissioner from the city that were at the event.
And I
So
just
thank
wanna
you.
Respond to that, because we go to these things sometimes, you think, why did I go to this? And that's the kind of thing we'd be not just to have to expand our information and knowledge as commissioners and mayor, but our standing in the municipal community of the city, like Florida League of Cities, we're very popular. It's a good thing. It's not just us, it's the bigger picture that we're part of. And I think that's important.
I also think it gives us a great voice because,
Absolutely.
you get to be on the board of 33 because you're a member city. You don't get to be on an executive committee or into position of leadership unless your peers want you there. So we have an important role statewide, not just me in holding the gavel for some time, but you all and how we act and react to things that happen in the legislature and the changes that we can help affect. So I think that our 5 seats, notwithstanding mine, are even more important now because we, there'll be more eyes on Lake Worth Beach. That doesn't make us extra special. As I joked at the dinner when I was given the gavel, I joked that I was informed by general counsel that the gavel was an instrument of limited applicability, meaning that it was of no use at home. So, but it was also a very strong feeling amongst all the cities that a lot of the things that the cities accomplish, certainly you have, staff and leadership within each city and the electric utility. And I think the same would apply on the water side. But you can only do what your respective commissions vote to allow you to do. So the things that we've done have come not just from this commission, but for the commissions over the last 8 years that we've been chasing this to get it done. Which leads me to the next, one of the other big things that we have going. We're working on the grant job descriptions. We're tweaking those a little bit to get a little bit more value out of them, and going to hold off on some for right now and fill those a little later. But we're getting ready to go ahead and post on those positions, so that's coming along. So while we were at the conference, we had a little bit of a misfire on a Tuesday because I expected Tuesday to be the go live date on the tie line. It was not, for good reason. We went live on Wednesday morning. So glad to report that after well over, I think, 112 years of operating as a utility, we now have a second interconnection to the FPL transmission system. And that is a game changer for our utility. For the first time in probably 15 to 20 years, we're no longer reliant on a power plant that is too old, but more importantly, too small to carry the city load. Now, many people don't realize is that the power plant went from producing 100% of our energy prior to 1972. I was not here then, to less than 1% of our energy today. All that energy that we need is imported down that tie line. And the role of the power plant became that of the extra fire truck, if you will. In case you needed help, you would start the power plant up. We outgrew the power plant many years ago. So probably for 15 or more years, I have to go back and check, but if anybody's interested, we can do the math. If we needed it, it was too small.
So do we fire it up? I mean, do we ever?
We do. We did,
Yeah, I mean,
it-
regularly, right?
yeah, we did do test runs until the point when we could no longer get it to start. But the units that have not been retired, we do test run them occasionally. On rare occasion, the Florida Municipal Power Pool does call for them to run because of their location and things that may be happening on the natural gas system. Some of them run oil, so we can start them up in support of our cities. On rare occasion, we need it for our own plant. For example, during Hurricane Milton, we did run them, and they came in handy. So we are filing on a new tie line. In recognition of that, we're going to be having something at system operations, but we're also going to do something with our engineering department. And we've prepared a special plaque, which I'll show you, but we're going to keep it a secret because they haven't seen it yet. But they'll see this plaque.
You
next
realize this
weekend.
is a public meeting.
Yeah.
But nobody watches.
Oh, that's
Wow, look at that.
cool.
So we'll hand this around, but we've had 2 of these made.
That is so cool.
That is so
Well,
cool.
engineering can't see it.
Can you-
With an old fashioned, I'm going to open the tie line for a second here. Switch
All the lights on.
to commemorate the closing of this of it, and the dates. And we put a bunch of names on here of people that were in the control room or on shift that day, key folks in our engineering department, friends at FMPA, one who passed away very early in the project, suddenly. But we'll memorialize this. I believe we actually have 2. One will go in system operations, the other will go in the engineering department.
Congratulations. That's lovely.
That's very cool.
We sent it out. We had to shop around. Suhei found a great place to have it made. So this will be on the wall forever, in recognition of what we achieved. So, looking back in history, about 8 years ago, I said, we'll need a tie line. There were no shortage of people. There were a few people that said, you'll never get that done. To them, I say, thank you for the inspiration. We got it done. We're not going to name them. But these are the folks that got it done. I'd say the vast majority, if not all, of our engineering department was not here 8 years ago. And for many of them, this is the first time they've done something this big. So we have a lot of bright people coming along, have done some phenomenal work. And now we have a state-of-the-art interconnection.
This is only rated at 25 kV, not one.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
saying.
And then also we've noticed that the power flows, the majority of the power flows are now through the new tie line and not through, but they're both operating. They operate together. So power is flowing through our system. I would be remiss not to thank also Florida Power and Light. And as I said in my speech at FMPA, the things that unite us are far greater than the things that divide us. And this project has been a great project, not just for us. And I would assume FPL would say the same thing. This is mutually beneficial. It supports their customer, supports ours. We all serve electric customers. We all want the state to be successful. And the transaction, the deal that we negotiated with them has been great for us and great for them. And now we have our second tie line and we're up and running.
Same time. It's not like either or.
That's correct. They're both operating the same time. It's a little bit more expensive to operate that way, but it's the most reliable and safest way to operate. So that's the way we're operating. In order to do that, we had to seek a higher level of federal regulatory approval, which comes with a lot of regulatory compliance. So one of the messages is that the old days is just casually walking into the control room are gone. If you haven't had a background check, you're not escorted, you're not on a list. And if you don't get through the triple or quadruple layers of security, you're not coming in. So don't take it personally. Some days they may not have me on the list, but I'm just kidding about that. But I think that was a glitch in the badge system. But our people are going to go through higher levels of security training. Cybersecurity will be very important, and we will have a audit by the federal government on our cybersecurity and also on our physical security and our general compliance with all of their regulations. We do use what's called a TOP, that's that transmission operator. In order to open and close these breakers and switches, you have to be certified to do that type of work with very strong reliability and training requirements and cybersecurity barriers, backup control rooms. We've contracted with OUC, Orlando Utilities Commission, through a joint effort called the Centralized Transmission Operator, CTOP. As the engineers, we have acronyms for everything, right? So we do that with a total of 4 utilities altogether, and we share those expenses. So when you went through the budget, you would probably saw that in the system operations budget, it goes up for about 3 years, and then it'll come back down. And that's because we're upgrading what we call the energy management system and that function to support this TOP function. And all of the participants in the CTOP are helping to pay for that. So
You're so good at working as a team.
I know.
it takes a big team to have all this stuff work.
What he walked into.
It really
when he came
does.
here a few years
Yes.
ago.
Yeah. And I think one of the important things about the team is that there's the hierarchy is not what you would expect. Sometimes the person at the bottom of the team is the most important person in terms of compliance or avoiding a compliance issue, and can sometimes have the most authority over anybody else. So it's a matrix organization with a lot of authority, rests at levels that you would not expect it to rest at. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Okay. I think I've probably said enough. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank
And congratulations again for being honored. Really, we're going to recognize that more.
Oh, thank you.
We're so proud of him and his team. Electricity,
I'm sure we can learn tons.
public participation of non-agenda items and consent agenda. Do we have any blue cards, Mr. Brown? No, Madam Clerk, do we have any blue cards?
I have no comments on any items tonight, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Approval of the minutes, June
Motion
24th.
to approve the minutes?
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Consent. Oh, yeah, thank you. Consent agenda. First Amendment to Hooper Work Order number 13, reducing the scope of work for the first half south hardening of Circuit R4R0602. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Unfinished business.
Should we vote?
Oh, vote, yeah, all in favor.
Aye.
Thank you. Any, Mr. Segridge, are you an aye?
He said yes.
Okay. Unfinished business, purchased power cost adjustment, our PCA.
Yes, Madam Mayor, for the record, Ed Liberty, Electric Utility Director. PCA is our power cost adjustment. This is the mechanism by which we pass through to customers largely the variable costs associated with purchasing power. These are not all of our power costs. For example, the nuclear power costs are in the base rate, but these are the things that are at the margin that can fluctuate up or down month to month. You've heard us talk for some time now in the last few months that the total PCA balance was trending in the wrong direction. And we tend to think of where we want to be on the total PCA funds in terms of a swim lane that we want to be in. We want to be above the bottom of the lane and we want to be below the top of the lane. So we've been watching the trends. We had last done an adjustment, I believe, effective April 1, and we could see that we were drifting down to the lower line, largely due to rising natural gas prices, but also due to the pending retirement of the Stanton coal unit. So one might say, gee, Ed, why is this pending retirement costing us more money? It's very interesting because as the unit is in its arguably its last 9 to 12 months of life, it's being run a lot. Yeah. I don't have the exact reason for that. It's probably because it effectively has a lower maintenance cost because we're not going to fix it into the future, but also because as natural gas prices go up, coal becomes more and more economic. And it also could be due to constraints on transmission systems, availability of other units for capacity. So it's needed. So we are entitled to a percentage of that unit. It happens to be 11 megawatts of the 400 plus megawatt capacity. So if the unit runs more, we get a larger percentage. Ironically, that percentage costs us more than the supplemental power. So it's put upward pressure on our purchase power costs. The good news is December 31 will be the last kilowatt hour that we buy from the unit at that price. January 1, that unit will be gone. In January, we'll get the bill for December, so we'll still make a payment in January. And the unit is properly reserved for in terms of its retirement costs. So we should not be seeing further billings down the road. We believe that most of that, if not all of it, should be handled within what's been reserved for its long-term care and shutdown. It's our understanding, though, that OUC is going to keep it alive for their purposes for a few months, 3 to 6 months, I think is the number they've been kicking around. But our responsibility will end at the end of December. So in looking at the power curve where we're going, Assistant Director Brian, when he's not on loan to water, has done an analysis for us, and you have all those sheets. But effectively, we're looking at an increase to the PCA of $2.17 from its current amount of $33.89. Now, when I'm giving these numbers, I'm referring to the the portion of the bill for that 1,000 kilowatt hour residential customer. But it's a 6.4% increase to the PCA over the next 3 months. So if you were to approve this increase today, it would go into effect, I believe, October 1. If I remember correctly, to give us time to get it into the billing system. It's possible we could get it in there September 1. We've got to customer service to try to get it in effect, but sooner the better. The good news is I've seen a little bit of a decrease in natural gas prices in the futures. Now, we don't buy futures. That's just an indication of where the market's going, but the prices have come down. The other thing that's happened is as it gets warmer along the East Coast, and this is one of the things I also mentioned at the FMEA meeting, we talk a lot about natural gas and where it comes from, where it goes to, and there's 3 pipes that bring natural gas to the state. So in terms of getting gas into the state, there's sufficient pipe capacity. However, those pipes all go back to the same source, which is the Gulf from Louisiana, Mississippi, Texas area. So to the extent that more of that gas is headed up the East Coast, powering power plants, more and more coal-fired unit retirements, growth, especially data center growth, that hasn't happened in Florida yet, but is happening at the other end of that pipe. It's drawing that gas, putting more pressure on that resource. I also pointed out there's between about 15 to 18 or 12 to 18 billion cubic feet per day of natural gas that's being liquefied and is going to Europe and Asia, where it sells for 3.5 to 4 times what it sells for here. So that's all good for the economy because those are American companies and American workers that are processing that gas. But it sends a lot more gas offshore. But there's plenty of gas to satisfy that. It's the pipeline constraints that put the pressure on the delivery, which is what we call the basis, that drives up the price. The commodity's been a little bit higher, not huge numbers, $3.50 or so, but the basis numbers can get high. So I believe there's graphs in here that show what we had forecasted the gas prices to be and where they actually came in at. And what I always say in these things, and you've all heard the speech before, is that we get the bill for the energy, then upwards of 30 days later, for some of the meters, we send the bill out, and 30 to 40 days later, we finally get paid. So these numbers for PCA revenues are all on a cash basis. It's paid when paid, but the bills are also on a cash basis. So you've got that lag period. So it's hard to predict where you're going. So that's why we're looking at this closely.
Okay, Mr. McBoy and then Ms. Mulega.
Thank you. And a couple of things in thinking about raising the PCA. This is in the context of, we've also, I believe, talked about raising the base rate by about 8% when we did the standard. We are in the budget season, so one could make a reasonable argument that perhaps this should be all both base and PCA, and whatever predictions we want to make for the coming year, that should be happening as part of the budget. We also have the rate stabilization fund. So all of those and the status of each of those things plays a role. The gas future. You mentioned that the that some of the situation was because natural gas prices had gone up. I'm looking at the graph in the backup from February to June, they've gone down, not up. And the increase that's projected, it basically sits about flat until November and then goes up, from 4.1 to all the way to 5, comes back down a little. It's not a very big increase. And the other thing that I notice is, I think in the backup, it was mentioned that if we did that, then over the 3 months, October to December period, that would make us about 150K. Looking at the rate stabilization fund, we're right about the middle at 2 million. Actually, a little above the middle. If I am reading the lines on it right. And so if this would raising this rate would make us 150K over that 3 months period, that's pretty small dent that we could take out of the rate stabilization fund. And I'm wondering why we would not do that.
So I think the operative slide to look at is in the PCA section. It's labeled as page 5 of 7. And that's the graph. If you were to look at it sideways, you have the dotted lines. Those are the swim lanes. And what that's tracking, if you look all the way to the far right, my glass is a little fuzzy, but $288,000. So that is the net of what we call the checking account and the savings account. So the PCA fund, the rate stabilization fund, is healthy, but the checking account is negative. So when you net two out, you have a total of $288,000 left in total PCA funds. And that's a combination of a stabilization fund and the checking account, if you will. So if you were to take the entire balance that's in the stabilization fund and move it over to pay the negative amount that's in the checking account,
Then the other would be empty.
and you'd only have $288,000 total that you're working with, which is below the $500,000 that the commission indicated you wanted to be below. So true, the stabilization fund is the savings account sitting there flush. The checking account's grossly negative.
And normally, so you have two options at that point. Oh, well, three maybe. One is do nothing and hope that stuff gets better. One is raise rates, pull in more money. The other would be what people normally, why they have a savings and a checking account. You say, oh, we've been spending out of our checking. We're a little bit ahead on spending and then revenues. We need to move a little bit out of savings into the checking account.
What we're saying is if we moved it all, you'd only
I'm
have
not saying move it all. You said we would make 150, the number 150K was mentioned in the argument for raising the rate.
What we're saying is if we raise the rate, we predict that it'll grow by about 100, the balance will grow by about $150,000 over a 3-month period.
Right. So one could take 150 out of that 2 million that's in the rate stabilization fund, which is why it's there to deal with bounces in the rate. And you mentioned that part of the reason we're doing that is that there's a little movement in the natural gas rate. And that was exactly the reason that fund was created, was rather than every time there's some movement in the natural gas changing the rate, the argument was buffer that by having a savings account. And this would seem like a textbook case of, okay, there's not a major movement in the gas thing predicted, but some. We've got pretty good savings in our savings account. Don't mess with the rate, move a little bit over your 150K. You could move that over and not do any harm to the stabilization fund. And now you have not raised the rates for that period.
Right. We're not talking about moving the money out of the stabilization fund. We're talking about just raising the rate.
But he's saying
I
an
understand
alternative.
that.
Yeah.
I understand
Yeah.
that, but I'm saying by the way we establish that rate and the purpose of that, this is a textbook case where
Yeah.
rather than raising the rate, you've got the reserve. If the reserve was at, a tenth of the size of the reserve, then you'd say, don't take, you need to raise the rate. But the reserve's at about the middle, the reserve fund, not the total, the reserve. So this would seem like an obvious time. Move over 100, sit tight on the rate for the moment, especially since the furthest out prediction, which I understand is only 1 month and who knows how good it is, but it says coming back down on the natural gas. So don't raise the rate and move 150K over, which was the amount that seemed to be of concern.
No, we're negative
Okay,
one point
I'm gonna call him, you finish up the Ms. Malek.
I mean, am I missing something? That to me is, like I say, it's textbook of why we set up that fund.
The checking account is negative by $1.8 million.
Well, then raising the rate to generate 150 wouldn't do anything either. I mean,
No,
either 150.
We're trying to do is to get the total. So the graph is the total amount of money. It's the net of the checking account and the savings account is only 288. By commission policy, you would like that total to be at least 500. So what we're going to have to do probably by the end of the fiscal year, so we don't carry a big imbalance into the new fiscal year, is move the savings account money over and add 150 to get to 500 to get back in this.
Okay, I'm gonna call Ms. Milligan.
So I just want to, but I think because of the prudency of having built up that stabilization fund, this hit is not as big because we had put that money into the savings, right?
So what are we proposing to do with the rate stabilization fund at this time? Are we moving anything or are we not moving?
Not at the moment, but I believe that the director of finance will ask you for approval, which only you can do at the end of the fiscal year to move that over. So we don't carry a negative on the operating account into the new year.
Ms. Malega?
Thank you, because technically, as everyone's paying their bill, we're collecting $5 per, well, that's going to the storm fund. Never mind.
That's separate.
Yep, never mind.
Yeah.
It's been a long day. So if I look at my checking account and it's negative 1.8, I'm transferring money over. Now, I don't want us to go below the 500,000 because that is a policy that we set. So that would mean that we could transfer 1.292 or something and still have a $500,000 balance in the PCA. My comment was actually a little bit different. At the conference, I attended one of the workshops, and I was really surprised at how much they were drilling down on nuclear and how
Oh, my God.
that's all they kept talking about is we really need to be thinking about nuclear plants. And I'm literally going, why do I feel like I just stepped back to the 1940s?
Yeah.
I could not believe the conversation because they said at one point we may not have those 3 gas lines, or like you have to think outside of what happens if that gets bottlenecked or there's a disaster where all that feeder comes in. What is your take professionally? Because we're sitting here talking about gas prices versus, and I sat here and listened to the whole Stantec and everything that we're doing with them. What do you think about that conversation of we should be shifting more of our concentration into buying more nuclear and less concentration on natural gas? Because I was taken back.
Let me speak first for the state as a whole and then separately for Lake Worth Beach. Yes, I believe the state needs more nuclear. Now that's probably going to get some people very upset, but let's think about why. I believe that FMPA's portfolio is upwards of about 80% natural gas. The investor-owned utilities are around 70% natural gas. Lake Worth Beach is only about 50% natural gas, which is a high concentration on one fuel. So this is not about environmental policy. It's about adequacy of supply. So if something were to happen on the natural gas side, where there was a natural gas crunch, about 50% of our portfolio would be I don't think it would go away completely, but it would be significantly at risk in terms of price exposure. For the other utilities, it would be much, much higher. When you look at the alternatives, let's think about what they are. Coal, no. Hydro, no. Solar, some. The problem being, though, that you still need capacity. You need firm capacity. And the point was made, which is very interesting, is that when you look at the amount of land that's available in Florida, vast majorities of it are underwater. And what is available is agriculture, in agriculture. So you'd have to have a massive solar build in agricultural lands where more and more people are pushing back on having solar built on those lands. That's not our case, but we're landlocked. We don't have that resource here. And then you say, well, if you still want solar, now you have to pair it up with batteries to get the capacity component. Well, that works great the next day, but about the second, third, or fourth day of cloudy skies. So you're beginning to realize when you're doing public policy planning long term, where are you going to get the stuff? And that's where people are starting to say that small modular reactor that technology is something that the state is likely going to be looking at pretty strong. So that's not something you're going to see suddenly a reactor online in 5 years. That's just not going to happen. But I would venture to say that in a 10 to 15 year range, I think it's very realistic that you could see something like that happen, because you just can't get the power density out of all these other resources. Now, there's growth in Florida. We've seen around 1% growth. Many other utilities are seeing 3 and 4% growth. And that's significant when it starts happening year after year after year. You can quickly get out of the 40 or 50% growth. Upper East Coast and certainly in the Northeast, we're talking about data centers, massive amounts of growth to support artificial intelligence. So you have your data companies that are now buying nuclear units that have been retired and they're investing to have them recommissioned and brought back to produce power to keep their data centers going. So there's a huge amount of energy. Now, I always caution people because we've seen many times in history. I've been in the industry now 44 years, where something comes on the scene and it's the biggest thing, and you have to get on board or you're going to be lost for decades. And then a decade later, it's not the biggest thing anymore. Some new thing has come up, and that's not as important anymore. So certainly looks like the load growth is there well into the future. And if you look at electrification of transportation, that's a market we didn't serve until a few years ago, but that looks like it's going to continue to grow. Maybe not quite as much without the tax credits, but it's not going to go away. So, electricity growth, more and more people moving to Florida, wanting to live here, wanting to keep their homes at 75 to 78 degrees and keep the humidity down. That's going to put more pressure on it.
So what you're saying is we're not anywhere near in the future to be able to access that nuclear to help offset the natural gas.
Not in the next 10 or 10 years, I would say. But that's something that people who sit in these chairs, policymakers in the future, will be thinking about as to whether Lake Worth Beach will participate in a project. But certainly I can say that at the FMPA level, which has an obligation for hundreds of thousands of residents in the state and 30-something utilities, that's going to be a big discussion. And certainly at the investor-owned utility level, they're going to be talking about it.
Ms. May?
Okay, going back to this. So at the end of the year, we have to come out where's Yannick? We have to come out kind of on the positive side, I would assume, right?
Yes.
Second question is, do we have penalties when we sit in the negative?
No, because we're leaning on our own cash funds that are in the stabilization fund.
Okay, that's good.
Now, if that 289 or 288,000 were to go to negative 500, then what we're doing is we're leaning on the city's working capital,
Right.
on your non-ad valorem bond funds, basically, to pay the bill.
Okay.
So you don't want to go there.
I mean, I've been sitting here for a year, and I think for at least the last 6 months, Ed's been saying this is coming. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, you've kind of been pushing this off as far as you could until we absolutely had to make this decision.
Mhm.
It is unfortunate that it is during budget time because we're raising other things at the same time. But after we get up to the 150, which you think will take about 3 months, right? What happens then?
Then you can certainly revisit it. We talk to you almost every month about this. Not a big formal presentation, but we give you a sense of where we're at. And obviously you can then make an adjustment up or down. Also point out that the heaviest load period will be pretty much over by the time this goes into effect. This will be September 1 if we can get it through customer service to get in the bills.
It'll be colder.
Right. So temperatures will start to drop. But also you'll have more of the snowbirds returning. So we've gotten through the bulk of the cooling season, if you will, without having to have raised the rate on folks.
So when the snowbirds come, that's more people
Correct.
using their power.
Correct.
Okay. So sharing the cost amongst.
Right. We still see high loads into October, but it drops dramatically when you get into November.
I see. Okay. So if we vote to do this, to change it and increase it to $2.17, it'll go into effect either September or October. It'll sit for 3 months, and then we come back and talk about what do we do after that.
Yeah, we would try to get it in effect on September 1, assuming, of course, I say customer service, they have a lot of work to do to change, go into the billing model and make sure for quality control that we get the numbers right.
Right. So by the first of the year, we could be bringing it back down, depending on two things, depending on, do we have enough money in the fund? And two, did natural gas prices go as we predicted?
Right.
And if they continue to go up, we're going to have a different conversation.
Right. And the standard expense will drop off, and we have additional solar that comes online at the end of Whistling Duck. So we'll have both Rice Creek and Whistling Duck. Ducks will be eating rice and
I love it.
and whistling. But we should be, that's a natural hedge for us. Right. Now, what others are doing, now we're not in this, but those that own, for example, own power assets, or they're making the power themselves, like FMPA does this and OUC does this, they have hedging programs in place. They're buying futures contracts to hedge where gas prices go. We could certainly talk about that in the future. That takes a lot of education. and a lot of support to put hedging programs in place. So we could further hedge that 50%. Right now we have a physical hedge because we have solar and we have nuclear. We could further hedge and try to lock in prices. So what they'll do is they'll set a policy of trying to lock in 10, 15 or 20 or 25% of their supply at low points when they believe they see a low point in price. So they'll buy some futures to protect themselves against a price spike on a portion of the portfolio. We could do that. I don't think Lake Worth Beach has ever done that. We'd have to take a look at our charter and make sure that it allows us to do things like that. That's a big policy decision. And you have to be very, very engaged as a board in those decisions because they're tricky.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Now wait, one more question. So if we did nothing, what would happen?
We expect that we'll be under the bottom line. We'll be negative in a few months.
And then when Yannick says, okay, transfer it over, we're still negative.
We could conceivably be.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it sounds like this is something we
Right.
need to do now, even though, and we were talking about it, we knew this was coming.
Yeah. Now, keep in mind too that if I knew exactly where natural gas prices were going, and we probably wouldn't be meeting, right?
Right.
But this is our guess, looking at what the only tool that we think is reliable enough is what do the futures prices say, and what do we think we're going to need in terms of volumes of energy.
But we've basically been charging people less than we've been paying for it for a while.
Yes, that's happened.
Right. So that's kind of where we're going to increase to get closer to that actual cost.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Which is the purpose of the stabilization fund and the PCA is to track it very, very closely.
Anthony Segrich, I think your hand is up.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Thank you, Ed, for the very thorough explanation. I just had a quick question. You answered most of my others. When dealing with hedging on natural gas prices, I believe I saw at the conference a presentation where there was a slide where it's either the FMPA or the FMEA is doing that. Is that something we could piggyback off of their expertise in that and take advantage as a city, or would we have to go at it on our own?
I think we could certainly piggyback on their expertise, although you still have to be very well educated in yourself, so you make sure you know what the decision is that you're making, and you'd have to work with a broker. Now, the difference with them is they can take their contracts all the way to fulfillment, or they can liquidate them and use the proceeds against the actual price of gas. So the vast majority of contracts don't go to fruition. They're traded and swapped. But we could certainly piggyback on that. What we could also do, of course, we don't know who our ultimate supplier is going to be under the current bid. But my suggestion would be, if you want to entertain doing that, it would be to do that with the eventual winner of the supplemental RFP, and then talk with them separately about a hedging program. That would be the best way to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Every time we talk about nuclear, I just get very nervous because on the one hand, it's clean and it's quiet and then when it explodes, sure, I was just like Chernobyl. What?
Homer Simpson works there.
Oh, okay. I don't.
I think though, if in all fairness, if you look at, I know, the frightening, facts of nuclear, but if you take a look at the cost of power for much of FMPA, they're substantially higher. They had graphs up on the screen, and I think I was reminding Brian to whisper to you that we're in the range of $58 to $60 a megawatt hour, all in for our total portfolio. That includes running our own plants, and the FMPA price for the members, because they are so natural gas intensive, is a good $10 to $12, $14 higher than that. So they're a little bit more expensive. And of course, we know that we're lower than all of the investor-owned utilities. So and the investor-owned utilities are not hedging, is my understanding.
Well, I'm just talking about, in general with nuclear. I mean, 58,000 square miles in Chernobyl was affected. And the state of Florida is only just under 66,000 square miles. So, I mean, if it goes, it's a problem. So just a side note, Mr. McVoy, and then we're going to move on.
Okay. I have questions about the numbers here. a couple brief comments on this broader discussion that Vice Mayor Malega brought up. There is a question of land area for solar. However, I did ask for some data, and the land area that gets converted from agriculture to housing is considerably greater in Florida than the land area that's going into solar. So that's something to think about. Clearly, storage is a critical part of whether it's of any of the renewables things, and it is something that people have at a technical level been working on very hard, because there's other parts of the world are moving forward with renewable energy. We unfortunately are being left behind because of sort of national level policy decisions, unfortunately, but other places are not, and they are moving on that. That's something to think about. Coming to the numbers, I'm having trouble. When I look at page 1, I compare PCA revenues to total PCA expenditures. I don't know if that's what I should be comparing. One is 25.6 million, one is 26.8. My difference there comes out to 1.15 million, not to 1.8 million. So there's something a little odd there. And then when I look at page 2 and I look at
The reason for that may be that we had some credits, transmission rate case and some solar project cancellations that credited PCA over the
well,
years.
that would have made
That's the only thing I can think off the top of my head without studying the numbers in great
well,
detail.
my
but-
difference comes out a negative of 1.15, whereas the table says 1.8. I just subtracted the numbers, the revenues and the expenditures, but I get a noticeably different number by about 600. Then when
I'll ask Brian to come up and help us do that number, but
when I look at page 2 and I look at the PCA cumulative revenue and the PCA cumulative expenses, I see a revenue of 64.4 million and an expense of 63.6, which is less. So I'm not seeing the background to where we're $1 million something in the hole. I'm seeing that we're ahead. And I
would say, remember also that you transferred money to the storm fund on the PCA at $1.5
all I
million.
can say is cumulative revenue and cumulative expenses, the difference between them ought to tell you where you are.
Well, the
I'm just
expenses
looking
were
at the
the
numbers.
expenses were the bills that were paid. They may not show the transfer,
Right.
right, Brian?
Right. So these sheets, I can't tell you how large these are behind the scenes. There's just we can't print all this out. I mean, it would be this thick to cover those. And there are movements of the transfer of the storm fund, and there are notations on the bottom of that page 1, but I can definitely open up this program, unhide everything. And hide might be the right word, not the right, but that's an Excel word. And send you that document so you can true up, and it will true up. I've done this. It's funny that Commissioner Voigt brings it up, because I've done this myself where I'm like, what are you doing? This doesn't look right. And I have to go back and open everything up and proof it all out, but it does equal out. But I will send that out in the unabridged version. But yes, I have done the same exercise myself, and I've sat there at times for 2 hours. Like, what are you doing? Going through every single number, and then like, knucklehead, you got to open this up and then you'll find it. But I can send that over.
Well, I don't
Thank
know that I want to see all the details, but I would like to know if I can't compare expenditures to revenues because there's something missing, can we make sure that, I don't think it's crazy to assume that if those are summary numbers, those are the total revenues and those are the total expenditures, I should be able to do the difference between them and find out where we are. And when I do, it doesn't come out to what we're saying that we're $1 million something in the hole.
Right. But the total
It
revenues and
actually comes out that we're ahead.
right. The revenues and expenditures, though, don't take into account the transfers to, say, the storm fund for that. That's just flat. That's before you start moving any money around. This is just flat out revenues versus expenses. So if we never moved any money, That's what it would look like. And this goes all the way back to, I think, December of 21. I have to go back and open up.
You remember that we transferred, there was no offsetting revenue. We transferred $500,000 to stabilization fund. We also had a rebate from a project that was canceled that never flowed any energy that came back as a rebate. And
It's an income.
right, but it had no expense associated with it. So it goes back and forth and back. We've tracked every one in detail, and this commission has been informed every step along the way. Not just this commission, but yeah. Yes.
Okay, so let's
Right,
say we
exactly.
looked at cumulative expenses, 63.6, and cumulative revenue, 64, which in my book is a bigger number, 0.4 roughly. Add on $500,000 to a transfer, that to the expenses, that would presumably be on the expense side. So that would get you to 64.1, and we're still 200 to the plus.
You got your rebate check in the mail.
Okay, all I can say is a balance sheet should be a balance sheet, that I should be able to compare revenue and expense. If you're telling me there's stuff that isn't in there, then let's put that stuff in there so that is.
We've said from the beginning, probably 2 or 3 years ago, we'll make these sheets look like whatever you want them to look like. And we've modified them many, many times so however the commission would like to see them, we can change it. But we can show you where every dollar came in and where every dollar came out, including the credits.
Showing the credits, but there's no offset to what that went to. That was a rebate that came back to us. So it's
Right.
making it look like we made more money
But
than we spent.
But any time that we transferred money out, there were footnotes on the sheets that mentioned why the number had changed because there had been a transfer.
That's
Mr.
an explanatory footnote.
Yep.
The number should be, that's your total revenue, that's your total expenses. And I'm not seeing, I don't have a case in front of me that says we're in the hole. And I do have one that says that our stabilization fund is fine. So I'm not seeing where the graphs that says we're way down. I'm not finding what numbers were those graphs drawn off of then, if they're not the ones that are presented.
Well, I think that we were asked to take numbers off the graph because we had been showing so many months the print was getting smaller and smaller. We said, okay, we don't.
No, wait, no. I'm talking about the graph on page 5, which is your argument that we need to raise the rates. You're saying that when you add the total, we're at 288. I can't come up with that number looking at the numbers in the tables. I come up with we're in the positive. So I can't vote to raise rates when I don't have backup that is consistent. And we've said we have an option. That's why we had the savings account. If you're a little low on the checking, once in a while you can move a little over from the savings. To me, I don't see a convincing case out of the numbers that are presented to me here that we're in fact in the hole, and certainly not a case to raise it when we have another option.
Thank you. Mr. Segrich has a question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick comment on that. A balance sheet is a balance sheet. These are not balance sheet graphs. There are no revenue and expenses demonstrated in the balance sheet. Simple finance would tell you that. These are just a representation of where we're at within these funds. I had the opportunity to dive in and ask a lot of background questions on this, and I was satisfied with the numbers. And I would urge everyone to ask questions long before they come into the meeting to understand these funds. Talking about solar, it's my understanding we're at our near maximum because of capacity. Seems to be something that gets forgotten when we talk about these things. Capacity is important. It's, as Ed says, it's what makes the light go on when you want it. So there is an actual critical mass of solar and wind and renewables that you can actually have and still have a stable grid. And until we got the second tie line established, we were Lake Worth Beach at maximum, if not more. So I think we've been doing a great job as a city in terms of making that balance, and it shows in the reliability awards that we've received. And I, for one, would be very much in favor of staying the course and following the recommendations of our director because he seems to be doing an award-winning job.
Would you like to make a motion to that effect?
What's that?
Would you like to make a motion to that effect?
I will in one second. And just the last thing, just on nuclear, it is scary. But having lived in Boston, overlooking the LNG fields, the liquid natural gas before they get shipped overseas, if there were ever an LNG accident there,
Yeah.
literally tens of thousands of miles would be obliterated as well.
Yeah.
Maybe not with some of the longer lasting effects of nuclear, but it can be just as devastating for the loss of life. And nuclear has come a long way since those days, and that's why they're going with smaller reactors and better technology. But I would like to make a motion that we follow the recommendation of Director Liberty and approve this.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Wait,
Oh, okay.
just, sorry. In your motion or your second, are you also, so you're making a motion to approve the rate increase? Are you making or including transferring any funds out of the PCA now to true us up, or are we leaving that alone?
I was following direction such that at the end of the fiscal year, Yannick with the finance department would make the determination whether we needed to do that or not.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Thank you. All in
So
favor?
it's just the $2.17.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any-
Nay, because I
Okay.
can't make the numbers.
Madam Mayor, if I can, it's, once I start staring at these long enough, it starts to click back in and say, okay,
Okay.
this is, so, to, Commissioner McBoy's concern of the page, 2 of 7, where he's showing, hey, I have a cumulative, expenses and revenues, and I'm showing a $788,000 difference, right? So this particular graph just shows the, revenues versus expenses over the course of the entire PCA since its inception. It doesn't look at anything else except for that coming in. Well, if you go back to September of 23, the commission voted to move $2.5 million over to the rate stabilization fund. And then in December of 23, moved another 500,000 over to get to the 3.5 million. Then we took 500,000 out of that to create the rates, the storm fund. And so those numbers are not going to be captured in this graph, because this is not looking for that. It's just going to say, hey, this is what the expenses were and this is what the revenue is. So if we never moved any of that money, if we never created the rate stabilization fund, if we never created the storm fund, that's what this would look like. But since we have done that, the page 1 is the one, and I can open up this a full data page and unhide all of these cells and send that out to you guys so you can see where all those footnotes are. But that I just want to make sure that we distinguish the difference, that these two, you can't look at these two and compare them. They're not the same thing. This is just looking at the revenues versus expenses. This is looking at where are you totally after you've moved money around, you've taken it from here, you put it here, and so that's what this one is at. So I know it can get confusing because I get confused and I do this on a daily basis. So
Thank you very much.
And thank you for your humility and
Yes.
saying, you know what, it is hard.
it's not easy.
Explain
It's
it.
It is
easy to confuse me.
But I mean, it's important to be humble enough to say, wait, I get confused too, and this is why.
We'd welcome an audit. We don't want the full responsibility, because if we make a mistake, yeah, we could. I want a bright light of an audit on these numbers, which I think, the finance department would do annually, and say, if there's something's been moved or the number, we've made fat finger errors before, let's fix it. And also, if you these reports are for your benefit. They evolved from many meetings with many commissioners and public, and how you wanted to see the numbers, meaning you as commission in general. We're not wed to a specific way of looking at it. If you want to see it in a different way, we'll put it in a different way. What we do have to do is protect the integrity of the confidentiality of some of those contracts. So we have to be careful what we show.
Thank you very much. New business. Change order number 2 to the PowerServe Technologies, Inc. Construction Services Agreement for the construction of the Canal 8 Bay 26 kV distribution substation. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second, but I just want to.
I see your light. I just want to motion in a
Yeah,
second.
second.
Okay, so Ms. Malega.
Thank you. I just want to say, Commissioner Segridge had just mentioned, asking questions before we come to the meeting. I want to say thank you to Valentina, who always responds to me, because whenever I get change orders, especially in large amounts, I always want to know what were the other bidders who came in originally. And she's always so gracious and looks it up for me to let me know what
Nice.
that second place or that next person in line was. because we know that sometimes people will put in a low bid and then come back with a change order. Oh, I need this much more. So thank you, Valentina, for always indulging me.
So let me speak that a little bit too, because I want to brag about this team. I had them go back and look at the magnitude of the change orders relative to the original size of the project. We've limited the change orders to 2% of the original contract. And the change orders that were made weren't because the contractor was sneaky and came back and because we have a very tough construction manager, a very tough engineering department. For example, our construction manager was in the business of building substations for a very large utility that serves most of New York City. I won't name the name, but he works for us as a construction manager part-time. He really beats these contractors up when they, I mean, not physically, of course, but when they make requests to get paid for things. And he says, no, look, you agreed to this. So he's very tough in that regard. This particular one was an issue with foundations. The foundation design was incorrect. And we actually got a credit from the engineering company for mistakes that they made. So it was good. We owed the contractor more money and we went ahead and we want to pay them. But this one had to do with errors with understanding exactly where the foundations were from the old equipment. So foundations had to be moved to accommodate the new equipment. But it is good to take a look at to make sure that you're not being run through the mill on change order after change order. These are things that we requested, which is the same thing on the next one as well.
So I have a motion and a second. Do I have all in favor?
Aye.
Segridge?
Yep.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, it passes unanimously. B, new business B, change order number 3 to Power Serve Technologies, Inc. for construction services at the Canal 26 kV distribution substation.
Motion to,
You can have it.
motion to approve, second by.
Commissioner Malega, Vice Mayor Malega, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So
Yep.
thank you. This was also things that I know you didn't ask for discussion, but things
we
that we realized afterwards that we needed to add to the design. We said, hey, we need you to do this.
Okay, that's next. C, task order number 20 with WGI Inc. for design surveying services. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I think Mr. McVoy beat you to it, Mr. Segridge.
I'd say it was close.
It was.
You're here.
Rewind.
McVoy one.
Any discussion?
McVoy two.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Next up, D, agreement with Intrend LLC for electric utility storm restoration services for disaster recovery services.
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Se- Aye is saying aye.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion- Do I have a?
I'll give that one to
I'm on the fence.
You
Mr.
can
Mc-
stay. We're going home.
Well, we're leaving.
Who took the first and the second?
I'll take the first. You can have the second.
All right. And thank you very much, everyone, and staff. Thank you. Yep, your big switch.